The advanced stat rankings are out, and Michigan, in my opinion, is in a great spot for the 2026 season. Let's dig deeper right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. We are going to start out with Bill Connelly's SP Plus preseason rankings that came out today, what it means for Michigan. Segment 2, we'll get into the Big Ten as a whole, and then as well as where the conference stands, by the way. And then I want to talk about the running backs room and where that group stands at the moment, because there's a quote from a couple days ago that I think is interesting. So let's get into all of that. Let's start with the SP Plus. Michigan actually is ranked lower than it was each of the last 2 years at this time. Well, I don't know about that this time because they kind of replaced the rankings from the ones that they released in late March to the final preseason rankings, as far as I could tell on a cursory search. But Michigan was hovering around 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th, even in 2024, right? Because there was a lot of like, well, hey, there's a lot of returning production, might be a new quarterback, defense should still be elite. And that was the same last year, even when they were ranked 8th at this time. I thought they were ranked 14th a couple of years ago, but that was just the preseason, just regular rankings. But Michigan is 14th in the SP Plus, which is, if you don't know what that is, that's advanced stats. I love Bill Connelly. I think he is excellent at what he does when it comes to doing this. He actually is the one who puts in all the effort for the ranking, the returning production rankings and all of that. So he has Michigan as the 14th overall team in the country. That's the good news. There's some bad news. We'll get to that a little bit here in segments 1 and certainly segment 2. But the 20th ranked offense at the moment, 13th on defense, 113th on special teams. So that last number, I think, is doing some heavy lifting at getting Michigan to be kind of on that lesser end here. Because let's look at, I'm gonna look at 2024's preseason rankings here. Michigan was 7th with the 41st offense, 3rd defense, and 7th special teams. Right, that does play a role in the ranking. That plays a massive role in the ranking. When I say massive, I don't mean like it's weighted more heavily than the others, but it does play a role. Special teams is a third of the game, and we've seen how that can absolutely kill you in so many ways. So I get it. I get why Michigan is ranked that low based off of 2 years of just terribility is the word I was going to use and make up. I'm going to go to 2025 real quick. Michigan was 8th with 37th offense, 1st defense, 22nd in special teams. So, having the 113th special teams is going to drag you down a bit. Absolutely, it's going to drag you down a bit. But I think that is actually, it's a good thing in terms of Michigan's not ranked in like this complete outlier type of spot. Yeah, it's out of the top 12. Doesn't really matter. You got to play and win the games. But what it does show is like there should be a massive move up with Kerry Coombs leading the charge, because in just a couple of weeks of the J.B. Brown experiment ending and the Kerry Coombs tenure beginning, you saw a special teams unit that was night and day difference against Texas. I mean, they got a turnover based off of design, not off of some kind of crazy chance. It was like when Michigan was really good at special teams. And considering there had still been an onus placed on special teams, they didn't have the staff that were able to get it to be executed. And certainly I think that with Kerry Coombs and what he's been able to do, I think that you're going to see that number more in the top 25, maybe not top 10, but maybe. compared to now, obviously there's questions about like who's going to be doing the punting and the kicking and all that stuff, right? Like, yeah. I mean, yeah, we know who it likely is as far as the Butkowski kid from Pitt, the Cam Brown from UNLV and all that, right? But I mean, we don't know how they're going to be necessarily, but there has been an onus placed on that. There is a coaching staff that's doing a lot better with that. So I say all that just to kind of note that's the one outlier spot where Michigan's down in like the dregs of it all. Whereas offense 20th. I mean, that feels pretty good. I mean, I understand Michigan's offense last year was 37th and no one was really decrying that, right? But I mean, that's a huge difference to be more so in up and near the top, right? And I think that the offense will end up being higher than that based off of what we've seen Jason Beck do. Like, I don't know if this is going to tell me the story that I want to tell. It doesn't. Because like Utah was 26th last year with the 54th offense. Obviously, it ended up being a heck of a lot better. I wonder if I can find final 2025 SP plus rankings. Because I would venture to guess it's a heck of a lot better. Yeah, here we go. SP plus rankings to close out the year. Utah had the 6th offense. So there you go. You know, it was a heck of a lot better the way that offense finished with Jason Beck compared to how it started. Just out of a cursory glance here, I just want to see. New Mexico had the 64th offense in their estimation with Jason Beck the year before. So nothing great there, but I mean, it was still statistically one of the best. So I say all that because ultimately the offense is kind of right there in that striking distance. The defense might not be considered to be one of the best at the moment, but 13th, if that kind of holds and the offense kind of holds, like that's a decent parity. And then you're just in a spot where you just have to execute and then steal a game or two, and you're in a great spot. The problem is, however, some of the teams that Michigan has to face this year are ranked ahead or near. Even the ones that there's even some that are right below them that's like, really? Okay. So let's get into some of the rankings as far as where the Big Ten is as a whole. One thing I think is really particularly funny. So excited to get into that. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, this is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on screen. Yaxel Lendeborg was an absolute beast against St. Louis on Saturday with a game-leading 25 points with just 32 minutes of play. The Wolverines need their star to be a star. If they're going to win the NCAA tournament and in the round of 32, Yaxel Lendeborg was exactly that, hitting 3 threes and collecting 6 rebounds en route to a 95-72 win over the Billikens. Moments like these remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, we're going to continue on here momentarily. But before we do, the tournament is here, and it's one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cutdown. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want, game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Get your first month of the Everydayer Club for free when you use the code MARCH. You'll unlock ad-free episodes and entry into our private listener group chat, where I'm hanging out daily, been in there today a bit. click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonwolverines.supercast.com to claim your free month. All right, so here's the issue for Michigan as it stands. Man, suddenly losing my voice here. Is that there are 3 teams on the schedule and 4 teams in the Big Ten who are ranked ahead of Michigan. So that's some bad news. And in terms of ranking the entirety of the Big Ten, I mean, that's not great. Especially now, Michigan does face some teams in the bottom. Let's start there before we get to the top. I mean, you know who the teams in the top are, but let's start at the bottom. Michigan State is the second to last. We talked yesterday about the returning production, and they were, I believe, second to last, maybe third to last in that. But yet, just the unbridled optimism coming out of East Lansing, right? Like, you would think that Pat Fitzgerald, who again, I love Pat Fitzgerald. I'm not trying to act like I don't. Just because he's the Michigan State coach doesn't change that for me. I'm sure it will certainly change if he starts being a little Michigan State-y. But, there's a picture that Brandon Brown took of me shaking his hand when I went up to him and pulled a Dale Earnhardt Jr. to Ricky Bobby, being like, I just want to tell you you're awesome. That's like verbatim what I said. I just, I did the Talladega Nights thing. But I think anyone would be remiss to act like he's some great innovator. And like he's gonna, here's the thing about what he'll do at Michigan State. Beyond this year, not this year, but beyond this year, he will make them more disciplined and they will at least eventually become a tough out. But will they be has he ever really fielded an offense that was like, oh, because you need that in today's college football. You do, right? You can't just slog your way to wins unless your name is Iowa. And maybe he can Iowa them up. I don't know. You'd have to venture he's going to be able to get more talent to East Lansing than he was able to get at Northwestern under the old rules. With the new rules, I mean, they've got money clearly. It's just a matter of, how they use it. I don't know that they did a lot in the transfer portal this year that would give you a lot of optimism, but they're one of the least talented teams in the conference. They're 17th in the in the conference and 67th overall. They're ahead of only Purdue. Michigan also faces Rutgers, who has been a tough out under Greg Schiano. There are no more 78-0 drubbings on the docket for Rutgers, right? Like you might beat them by 20, but man, it probably didn't feel good through a lot of it. They're just a couple spots ahead in the overall with 62. And then, Michigan doesn't play a lot of these other teams that are near the bottom. UCLA is 12th in the conference, 46th overall. That's not a shabby place to be. Minnesota, surprisingly, at 45th. I think that they should be ranked higher, given that they've got the third most returning production in the conference and are a top 10 team as far as that's concerned. They have a highly rated defense, but lowly ranked offense and really lowly ranked special teams, lower than even Michigan. And Iowa is surprisingly to me ranked 22nd, despite having the least amount of returning talent and not having a quarterback in the Big Ten. So that, I think, it poses some issues for them. But otherwise, Michigan mostly avoids a lot of the bottom teams, which is kind of unfortunate. Ranked right behind Michigan is Penn State, who's 17th in the country with the 14th offense, 23rd defense, and 6th special teams. I don't know if that feels high for them. I understand they're really the Penn State Cyclones more than the Nittany Lions at this point. I have a lot of faith in Matt Campbell. I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to get that thing running, but we've said that about other teams before too. It is a talented team. Thankfully for Michigan, they come to Ann Arbor. Not that Happy Valley's been an impediment for the Wolverines. They haven't lost there since 2019? 7 years ago. And granted, they've only played there twice, but they won in 21 and 24 or 23. So, yeah. The problem for Michigan here is that there's the 3 teams ranked ahead of them that are on the schedule. Unsurprisingly, Ohio State is ranked number 1 in the SP+. I feel like that is always the case in the preseason SP+. Always. I just want to look back here. Oops. Of course, I messed this up here. Wait. Preseason. Because like you look last year, oh, look at that. Ohio State's number 1. They're always number 1. I believe even in 2023 in the first preseason one, they were number 1. I think they fell and Georgia was 1. Michigan was 3. I think, and Ohio State was 2. Right? Like they're just always number 1. Whatever Bill Connelly does to put these together, it's like the talent, the recruiting talent, the retention, incoming transfers. Ohio State's always going to have all of that stuff. Recent history, like they're always just better than most teams, right? Like they don't fall off. Even if they lose, like they get to the playoffs and they might lose like they did last year. But, generally that's like they're the most consistent team in all of college football. So it's not terribly surprising ultimately. But they have the number 2 offense and number 1 defense with number 67 special teams. So, I mean, yeah, but they're not really as much my concern because we've seen what Michigan's done against them in the last 5 years minus last year. It's more so that Michigan has to play at number 2 Oregon, who has the number 1 offense and number 3 defense with the number 50 special teams. I do think that Oregon, this is kind of like an if not now when type of year for Oregon, in my opinion. You're bringing so many people back, including Dante Moore. I mean, they're trying to do the run everybody back type of thing that Ohio State did after Michigan did it, and that Penn State tried before completely showing that it doesn't always work. And then Indiana is number 5 with the number 9 offense, number 6 defense, 22nd in special teams. I just don't know, like, is this just what Indiana is now? Kurt Cignetti's clearly amazing. But like, can Josh Hoover do what Fernando Mendoza did last year? They lose a lot of the James Madison players that helped also make this a thing. I don't know. We'll see. I think they deserve the benefit of the doubt, but that is an issue. However, the fact that Michigan has to face those Big Ten teams that are ranked ahead of them, and Oklahoma is also ranked ahead of them in the preseason SP+. It is, I have to pull it back up. They're only a couple spots ahead at number 12, but with the 27th offense, weirdly ranks below Michigan, and 10th defense ranked only 3 spots ahead of, but with a much better special teams at number 33. So that is a lot to overcome. So ultimately, Michigan's got 6 teams it's got to face that are in the top 25. Ohio State number 1, Oregon number 2, Indiana number 5, Oklahoma number 12, Penn State number 17, and Iowa number 22. Now, the 2 ranked behind them, I feel like Michigan's got a good shot at, not only because I look at those teams and I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but I just think that they are maybe a little bit overranked here. Michigan's, I think, right where it should be at about 14. Utah finished at number 8 last year. So, like, I think, like, Kyle Whittingham with this type of talent, it'll be interesting. But he didn't just take over Michigan's talent and Utah's schedule. He's got Michigan's schedule, which is an absolute bear. It's just kind of the question of, can they get wins against Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State? If I was to venture to guess, I would say they'll get one of those 3. Maybe it's a possibility of 2, but I think they'll get one of those 3. And then you see where you go from there. But it is interesting. And I always love when this day comes about. I hope that you do too, because we're obviously doing almost an entire show on it. So, it's going to be a challenge. But I think that Michigan's at least in a spot where it's got a lot more talent than people want to give it credit for. It's not some middling team like people want to act like. They now have a coach that's not perusing his Instagram DMs at halftime in the biggest game of the season, after he just completely changed up the game plan based off of one play. I think that they're in a good spot. All right, let's get to some running back stuff, because I think that offensively we spend a lot of time on the skill positions. It is a skill position, but not the same, right? So I want to get to some running back talk, and we'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Supply House. You wouldn't show up on a game day without a plan, and you wouldn't show up to a job without the right parts. That's why putting Supply House in your starting lineup is always the right call. Here are the stats: 300,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products, 500 tried and true brands, and 90% of the country is in the 1 to 2 day delivery zone. Need a last minute coupling, a compressor, a press tool? They've got it, and they'll get it to you quickly. They are absolutely clutch. If you are a pro in the trades, you can join the MVP of rewards programs and become a trade master. Pros get exclusive members only pricing, priority shipping, industry leading customer service, and it's all absolutely free. Visit supplyhouse.com/TM to learn more about becoming a trade master. Use the promo code SH5college for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com, promo code SH5college. Supply House, real people, real service. All right, we're going to finish up here momentarily, but before we do, what if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, so we don't spend enough time talking about running backs in the Everyday Club. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday. I was being asked about Bryson Kuzdzal and, like, is he your RB2? Savion Hyder is, maybe he'll come on. And I'm like, nah, I think based off of what I've kind of heard, pretty much from colleagues, I think that Savion's pretty much cemented as RB2 at this point. I understand more experience for Bryson. I mean, Savion's a different animal. But still, I mean, like I don't think I'm going to give credit here. Ramos Herrick, he had said, he would be a starter, Bryson would be, at a large group of Power 4 teams. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. The thing is though, Michigan has 3 guys who would be starters. Because even though Savion does not have the experience yet, I think that he's got the talent and the ability, right? Like, it's not unheard of to see a freshman running back become a starter. It doesn't happen all the time, but like often you see the best running back Ohio State had last year was a freshman. In 2019, Michigan started Zach Charbonnet. Did he look like a freshman to you? No. And I think that Savion Hyder, albeit a different running back than Zach Charbonnet, he's not worlds different. He's more of a complete package of the same kind of ilk to some degree. Like, he can go, he's not Justice Haynes, where it's like, the Justice was, a little bit more Travion Henderson than, anything Michigan had kind of had, right? The one cut, make you miss, gone. Savion can do that, but Savion is also a guy that can rumble in the trenches a little bit. Here's what Jordan Marshall had to say. He was asked about Savion Hyder. He had to say this. He said, he's annoying. I don't like to see him. And then he said, I'm just kidding. I wanted to include that. He's actually a great kid, comes from a great family. I got to know him in the recruiting process as well and spent more time with him and his family, but just a good kid. He wants to learn. He listens when we ask him to do something. He's so willing to learn and he's excited to get better, and not only listens to me, but no matter who it is in the running back room. And that's something that a good player needs to have, is that willingness to learn. And again, I'm excited to see him out there on Saturdays and in the spring game. He's next level. I'm excited to watch him and make sure he gets better, and then he goes down in history here as well. That speaks just as much about Jordan Marshall and his mentality as it does Savion Hyder, by the way. So, I mean, that's not like a crazy quote, but like, he's right. He's next level. And honestly, that humility, I think is important, right? Like Donovan Edwards has obviously been my guy for, since I've known Donovan since he was going into his sophomore season in high school, right? I think that he became humble, but I think the lack of early humility kind of, it didn't help him. I don't think he was as brazen as maybe he was made to kind of look. I mean, he didn't help himself, but like, I think that there's something to being in particular a running back, because I think like if you're going to be brazen, be a wide receiver. I think you have to be brazen to be a good wide receiver. I don't think you can be tentative and be a wide receiver. You like look at the NFL and look over the course of, I mean, I don't really follow the NFL right now, but like look over the course of decades. It always seemed like the top wide receivers in the NFL were insane. And every time it felt like they were being like, okay, that person flamed out eventually. Then it's like, oh, but there's this new one and he's not like the last one. Like I remember Terrell Owens not being considered a diva. I remember that. And then it was like, and then he becomes that. And then it's like, okay, well, that's done. But like, Chad Johnson, he's got all that same talent, but he's not crazy. And then before you know it, his name is Chad Ochocinco and he's crazy. Oh, okay. Well, Antonio Brown, he's just like Chad Johnson, except he's not crazy. And then he becomes crazy. And that craziness is somewhat born of pride and just like this, like, I'm the best player in the world mentality. I think you kind of have to have that to be an elite wide receiver. And you see that like at least in college with Ohio State receivers. I don't think that that's how you have to be as a running back. Running backs, I think you have to be a little bit more not just humble, but just kind of like willing to share the load nowadays. Like you look at what the Detroit Lions were in the last couple of years with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'm still sad about David Montgomery being traded away. But, like it was very much like a camaraderie. I mean, Sonic and Knuckles, like these guys like rooted for each other. They taught each other. They learned from each other. You could see that more so with Jahmyr Gibbs and how he was able to learn from David Montgomery. I say all that to say like, that's great that you see Jordan Marshall saying this about Savion. And I don't know Savion very well. I've only talked to him through the DMs. But like, he appears to have his head on his shoulders and appears to like, you want that, like that balance of competitive, but not to the point of insanity. And I think he's got that. And I think he's talented enough. And Michigan's just in such a good spot because it's not only those three we talked about, like they still have Micah Kapana on the roster, right? Like he's someone that was supposed to be RB3 last year. And then just his injuries kept him from really being in that conversation. I think Michigan's in such a good spot when it comes to that. And I haven't even mentioned Tony Alford, who I adore. I think they're in just such a good spot there. And especially with an offense that has, at least in the last 2 years, produced the second most rushing yards. And the fact that now, like kind of what Jordan Marshall said, like they shouldn't be facing 8-9-man boxes anymore because the receiving game has been good. And also the quarterback, they're going to actually run the quarterback. Like this absolutely should be a kill you in every single way, a death of 1,000 paper cuts if everything goes to plan. And I think it kind of starts, it starts with the offensive line. And then I think then it goes to the rushings. Where did that even come from? That's a good enough place to stop. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.